This is a recording of The Paper Bag Princess by Robert Munsch. There was a princess who had beautiful clothes and a beautiful castle, and she was set to marry a handsome prince. And together they were one day when a dragon came along, and in one swoop he devoured the entire castle, and in one breath of fire he consumed all the princess's clothes, and then he took off with her prince. Well, this just puzzled the princess, and she was angry, and she looked around, and the only thing that she could find to put on her was a paper bag. So she cut holes in it, and she put her paper bag over her head, and she wore it as a dress. And then she followed the dragon. And it was easy to follow the dragon because his path, he left a burnt path with horse's bones. So as she finally got to the castle where the dragon lived, she could see the prince up in the top of the tower, and she grabbed the giant knocker and she knocked as hard as she could. Knock, knock, knock. And the door opened, and out popped a dragon's head, and he said, "Well, looky here, we have a pretty princess, and I love to eat princesses, but I'm full today, so go away." And he slammed the door right in her face. And as mad as she was then, she took that giant knocker and she knocked as hard as she could again. Knock, knock, knock. And open swing the door, and the dragon's head popped out, and he said, "Go away, princess. I love to eat princesses, but I just ate an entire castle." And she said, "Dragon, I have heard how mighty you are. Could you devour this entire 10-acre forest in one breath?" Well, the dragon, curious and wanting to show his impressive power, he said, "Sure." And he come out of the castle, and he breathed one giant breath of fire, and he took out the 10 acres. So the princess looked at him, and she said, "Dragon, could you consume this 100-acre forest with just one breath?" And the dragon, wanting to show his power and impressing the princess, blew one giant time, and the entire 100-acre forest was gone. And at this, the princess said, "Well, dragon, I have heard that you can fly around this entire earth in 10 seconds. "Oh, why, yes, I can," said the dragon. And he was for sure of his powers. So he flew around the world in 10 seconds. And he was a little tired. And the princess could hear his breathing. And she said, "Dragon, could you fly around this entire world 10 times? I have heard that you could." And the dragon said, "Well, of course I can." And in 20 seconds, he flew around the entire world 10 times. And at that, he came, and he laid down, and he closed his eyes, and then he began to snore. And the princess tiptoed over, and she said, "Dragon, can you hear me?" And the dragon didn't move. And so as loud as she could, she picked up his ear, and she put her head in his eardrum, and she said, "Dragon, can you hear me?" And the dragon could not. He was still sleeping. And so she walked over to the castle, and she opened the door to find her prince, And her prince looked at her and said, "Princess, you do not look like a princess. You are all dirty, and you're wearing a paper bag. You go get dressed like a proper princess, and then you come back and get me." And at this, the princess looked at the prince, and she said, "Prince, you look like a prince. You're dressed in fine clothes, and you have a princess crown, but you are a bum." And they did not get happily married after all.